And I'm grateful for a very specific reason. And God, I hope I never forget that reason why I'm grateful to be a sober member of Alcoholics Anonymous. See, I've been spared from a seemingly insidious illness called chronic acute alcoholism. I don't have a disease. What I suffer from is a spiritual malady. My spirit is sick, and my spirit can only be treated in increments of 24 hours. There's no cure for it. I have to treat this illness every day. If I don't treat this illness every day, I become complacent. And I will slide back into that old vicious, insidious thinking. And it will creep up on me. And it will consume me once again. That's why I'm grateful, because I've been spared. I've been given a way out of a seemingly hopeless state of mind and body. See, I'm not a has-been. I'm just a never was. And that wine took me to a point in life where getting up just didn't even cross my mind. And why am I fortunate? I almost missed this thing. I almost missed this, not by the resentment and fears that I have, by that baseless pride. I was going to insinuate and insist on doing this my way and on my terms. And my way and my terms always, even today, ends in utter disaster. I've been sober since June 6, 1973. I was 25 years old when I crawled off of Skid Row, downtown Los Angeles. And I hadn't been down there for a few weekends. I had been down there for years, selling whole blood every 58 days and plasma twice a week, with a coat too long to be short and too short to be long. And my family rescued me. They cooked up some cockamamie scheme where I was going to be the best man at my brother's wedding. And they came down there on Skid Row and got me and cleaned me up because they wanted me to meet this gentleman, my mother's supervisor's husband, who was a sober member of Alcoholics Anonymous. And he caught me at the reception. He had told him, don't let him drink. And for 4 days and 4 nights, my brother and my future brother-in-law guarded me, watched me wherever I went. If I went to the bathroom, they stood outside. If I went to the barbershop, they was at the back door because I tried to slip out. And this gentleman approached me at that wedding. Tall gentleman, well-dressed. It was February. It had rained that week in LA. And he had his top coat on. And he came over there. He said, I want to talk to you, young man. And he says, I'm an alcoholic. Every bone in my body relaxed. Finally, I had found somebody who could relate to how I was feeling. Because my little mind told me if he was an alcoholic, he should have some alcohol. But I wasn't going to bum rush him. I was going to be polite. I was going to wait till he reached into the breast pocket, pulled it out, cracked it, and hit it, and passed it to me. But in my politeness, I heard his story. Because he told me his story. He said, I had not drew a sober breath in 6 years. And my wife had just gave birth to our twin daughters. And we had only $6 left in the entire household. And my wife gave me the $6 to go buy my infant daughter some formula. And I took the $6 and I bought some wine and I got drunk. And he said out of that guilt, shame, and remorse, it drove him to AA, and he had been sober 20 years. And I said to myself, well, if I ever get married and my wife have twin daughters and she give me the last $6 and I get drunk, I'll go to AA too. And the deacon put me out of his house because I started back drinking. The deacon didn't let no drinking have in his house. He said, you can't go along with my program? You can't follow the rules here? He said, there's the door, let it hit you on the good Lord split you. And don't let it hit you on the way out. Plus I had got a resentment. My sister-in-law, the one who was getting married, she had gave these producers my name. There used to be a TV show in LA called The Newlywed Game. It had a companion game called The Dating Game. And my sister-in-law gave them my name to come and try out for the dating game. And I looked in the mirror talking to the assistant producer, and even I knew I wasn't dating game material. I'm sitting behind the screen, bachelor number 3, what do you do? I drink wine on Skid Row. I sell blood and piss on myself. Oh, I was really upset. And that's where I ended up back on Skid Row, and I got terrified. I was absolutely terrified to the point of suicide. And I showed up at the county hospital psycho ward. I had been there before, many, many times. And the lady psychiatrist did something no other healthcare professional had ever did. None of them had ever approached me about the amount that I drank and how it affected me when I drank. And she said this, I'll never forget that lady as long as I live. She was so kind to me. She said, Mrs. Scott, your emotional problems will probably get better if you dealt with your alcoholism. I see that every time you come here, you're always under the influence of alcohol. And maybe alcohol is driving your suicidality. But I have an answer for you, Mrs. Scott. I would like to refer you to an innovative program that the state of California has just instituted up at Camarillo State Hospital. It's a 90-day alcohol treatment program. But I need you to commit to 6 weeks to stay. She had told me I was going to hell. I would have went on that trip because I didn't want to go back to Skid Row because I'm an institutionalized alcoholic. 3 hots in a cot, 3 hot meals and a place to lay my head. I'm good until the next episode. And that's where I attended my first meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous. That's why I'm partial to people who do institutional work. I love people who go to institutions and carry this message of Alcoholics Anonymous. And there was a panel that would come there every night, but I wouldn't go to none one of them. What happened was I met this girl. Boy meets girl on the Nut House campus and falls in love. They call it bush therapy up there. She was into going to AA. And she said, Jerome, they're going to have an AA meeting at 8:30. You get some donuts, cookies, and coffee, and maybe some cigarettes. Let's go. I cussed her out. Out of lust and loneliness, I went to that meeting because she liked me. I didn't hear nothing. I got lost in the preamble. I got out of that hospital, and the deacon, in his generosity, had offered me some aid and shelter again. But he told me, you better not drink. And 2 days out of the hospital, after being off of alcohol 90 days, I'm drunk again. And he's getting ready to put me in the streets. And this girl called me. She said, Jerome, do you want to go to an AA meeting? And I had a good answer. I told my dad, I'm going to get some help. I'm going to AA. He didn't know what AA was. And I didn't know what AA was either, but I was trying to get some kind of aid and comfort. And she came and picked me up to this meeting. But see, she liked me, you know, we were supposed to consummate our relationship after we got out of the hospital. She said we could do that after the meeting, we go to the motel. I told her, no. Let's go before the meeting. And I almost had her. She almost bent to my will. She was going to verge of giving in to me and leaving that meeting and go to the motel. And I made the best mistake of my life. I looked at her, I said, Bonnie, you know what? We don't need this AA crap. I'll sponsor you and you sponsor me and we could keep each other sober. And it was this little old guy at the meeting standing over there with three other guys, walked into our conversation uninvited, got right up in my face, all into my personal face, talking about I'll be your damn sponsor. And he said, Jack K is my name and sobriety is my game. Call anytime. I wanted to do something to him because he was interfering in a very serious relationship issue. But there were three other of them cornfed guys standing at the door, and they was a lot bigger than he was. So I said, well, I better leave him alone. He has three friends with him. So Bonnie took me into the meeting, and he gave me his card. And it says, Jack K is my name. I said, damn, he's a poet. I collected those cards. I called him one time, coming out of DT's, audio and visual. On my way back to the mental institution, Jack didn't say, Jerome, how could I help? I ended up in Camarillo State Hospital in 1972 for the second time. And it was May 1973. I had 3 visitors. 2 of those visitors my dad sent because they were looking for me. My probation officer, yeah, he was looking for me. He liked to violate me because I never could do right on probation. He violated me, give me 30 days, 30 days, 30 days. Well, I get arrested off the streets, you know, I'm good. And always he violated me and he sent me to Wayside Auto Rancho, the County of Los Angeles honor form. And they had my job waiting for me. My job was to clean the hog trough out. They had hogs up there that they fed all the other garbage, and the hogs would eat on one side and the butt side would hang into this little old concrete basin where they poop would go there. My job was to clean that out. And hog poop is, I don't want to be graphic, but it's some awful smelling stuff. Methane don't get off of you very quickly. So they had us segregated out there. Just 5 of us would clean that place. And you put on these rubber boots and you slide. Whoop. Yeah, he came up there he came up to the state hospital on Mother's Day with his 90-year-old mother to pay me a visit. County probation officer on his own time. Came up there, scared me half to death when he came on the ward. Almost jumped out and I thought he was going to take him and put me in jail, but he was really nice. Oh, I really appreciate you doing this good work for yourself in treatment and ... And then he asked me, he said, you know, I want to go to Port Hueneme and I want to know how I could get out of there. I said, well, you get out of the south entrance and you're on 101. It'll take you right there. He said, can you show me? I said, sure, I'll show you. I walked into his car and then he flipped a switch. He said, you think you're fooling me coming here, don't you? He said, I've been a probation officer for 30 years. You ain't fooling me. If I hear you in the vicinity of a liquor store, if you get arrested for jaywalking or spitting on the sidewalk, the next time I violate you, you're going to do 366 days in the county jail. And I guarantee you won't get one day of good time. You will do every one of those days. And his little 90-year-old mother stuck her head out the window and said, Good luck, young man. Good luck. I'm on my way to jail for a year and a day. You talking about overwhelmed and depressed? I'm depressed because I know me. The next visitor was that Wednesday. Tall gentleman, suit and tie with a bulge over his heart. I said, what is undercover police doing in the mental institution harassing patients? I said, well, he's not looking for me. But he was. And the attendant pointed out to him, there he is over there. I couldn't run. I had my back to the door. I couldn't run. I couldn't get away. And he came over and introduced himself. He says, I'm a special agent from the Internal Revenue Service. I kind of smirked. I said, what does the IRS want with me? He said, you know you owe us $14,000 in back interest. And I said, do it look like I got $14,000 in the mental institution? Because I know he couldn't take me to jail for $14,000. You have to have assets, hidden bank accounts. You have to be a flight risk. Shoot, I didn't even have ID. And I told him, why are you harassing me? Why don't you go get some white collar criminals who owe you some money? Go to their house. Here you coming up here to the mental institution, harassing me out of my comfort, stressing me out. He said, well, when you get on your feet, come and see us. I showed him my foam slippers. I said, do it look like I'm going to get on my feet anytime soon? My sponsor made me make amends for that. You can't get away from them people. They're going to get theirs. The next visitor, God sent. Yeah, God sent him that day, that Sunday, the Sunday before Memorial Day weekend. There was another young man from South Central LA. Jack sponsored him too. His name was Raymond. Jack had been sponsoring Raymond since Jack got sober, 6 months sober. Jack was sober almost 2 years. And Raymond called Jack collect on a Sunday morning. And Jack left his plush home in West Hollywood and drove all the 60 miles up to Camarillo State Hospital in Ventura County to pick up his AA baby. And Jack spotted me. I didn't see him. He saw me first. And he eased up behind me. Shocked me too. He says, Jerome, what are you doing here? I didn't even turn around. I said, damn, he done followed you to the nut house. And he caught me off guard. And I told him the truth. He asked me, why was I there? I said, Jack, I don't know what's wrong with me. I have absolutely no clue why I act and drink the way I do. And he didn't talk down to me from some spiritual AA mountaintop. I knew this that day. I knew standing in front of me that day in the latter part of May of 1973 was a man that loved me and cared for me in a way even my own family could love me. And I knew he would do anything in his power to help me. It was simply in his mannerism. Because you know when someone is judging you and looking down at you with pity. And he looked at me with nothing but love and compassion. Because he knows the load and the weight I was dragging around. And he just simply said this, Jerome, if you follow what I follow, and you do what I do, you will never have to drink as long as you live. And you will never have to come to a place like this unless you choose to. He said, I got a spot for Raymond in the original 12-step men's house. And I'm sure I could get you one too. And it's always the paradox of that event that day. The paradox of that event that day, Raymond is dead and I'm alive. Raymond went to the 12-step men's house and ended up ODing off a second all barbiturates and a fifth of Jack Daniels. And the only ID he had in that sleazy motel room was Jack's card. And that day when he offered me that solution, I cussed him out. I said, I don't want your pity and your help. And he just looked at me in amazement. He says, Jerome, I understand and I care. And he walked away. And 4 days later, I was out of that hospital. And once again, the only friend I had offered me aid and comfort. My dad, the deacon, he offered me aid and comfort. I can't tell you how many hospitals, jailhouses, he done stood in those long lines to come and see his crazy ass son. And he would always ask that question, you know, that perplexing question. He stayed there all day just to get up there. He said, you know, son, I was at home and I was sitting there worried about you. And I know you smoke. So I came down here to give you this $20 so you could get some cigarettes. Because all I could do is see you walking around picking up butts off the floor. Why do you have to come to places like this? And I would always drop my head because I had no clue. I was dying in ignorance. I wish I could have looked up and told him, says, Dad, I suffer from an insatiable desire to drink alcohol because once I drink, I have this allergic reaction in my body and in my mind that make it virtually impossible for me to stop. And I can't do this on my own. I have no clue. But I got out of that hospital. He offered me aid and comfort. And I showed up at his house in a blackout and I beat him down in his own living room. Cussed my mom until she cried. Stood in front of their house and busted out every window. And the police came. 3 carloads of them. And I'm so thankful it wasn't dust because I was out there trying to be provocative. And they choked me out. They didn't arrest me for all that stuff. They just arrested me for under the influence of alcohol. And I got an OR release the next day. I was surprised. I said, I struck gold. I got the little money I had left and I bought me some more wine and I came back over there. And I saw my father's sister, my aunt. She was crossing the street. And that wine said, she needs a beat down too. I chased her in the house. I thought she was afraid of me, running from me. No. Some of them Scots are not passive at all. She was running to the back bedroom between the box spring and the mattress where she kept her regulator, that pearl-handled snub-nose .38 pistol. And I had burst through her screen door and I was in her living room getting ready to charge. And she said, come on, nephew. And she cocked it. Oh, you ought to see me get out of there. Oh, man, backwards. Because I know them Scots. They will take you out and do the time. And I hid in the trash dumpster. The police got me again. And on that cold jailhouse floor on the 5th of June, 1973, in a drunken stupor, I had a spiritual awakening. A spiritual awakening is nothing just coming to and having a little lucid moment that you're going in the wrong direction and that you need to make some corrections. So that's all a spiritual awakening is. It's not the end of all ends. You have to have a spiritual experience for that. And that's a totally different ballgame. But you have to have that awakening. And I came to, and I said to myself, if I could get off this floor, if I could get back to Alcoholics Anonymous, I'm going to find that man Jack Kay, and I'm going to do whatever the hell he asked me to do. If he asked my ass to jump, I'm going to ask him how high. And that man never asked me to jump into nothing but the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous, the 12 steps, the 12 traditions in the world concepts. And my life has radically changed. He showed me how to clear up the wreckage of the past. Because I didn't have no place to go. Since I was going back to AA, I broke into my parents' house and stole my brother's clothes because I needed to at least go to AA decent. And my mom caught me in her house. She said, your dad said if you ever come on his property again, he's going to kill you. And I got smart with her. And she said, Sonny, you might not be familiar with B.B. King's new record. She said, don't nobody love you but your mama. And she might be jiving too. She said, I'm old and I'm tired and I don't want any more violence here. If you can't come around, son, please don't come around. And I'm walking down that back step to go to AA, and she stopped me. She said, Sonny, I want you to know this, that mama loves you. I really do love you. But if you're an alcoholic, ain't a damn thing I could do about it. And I went down to that Friday night beginners meeting, a broken young man with no hopes, no dreams, no aspirations. And I sit right in the middle of this thing called Alcoholics Anonymous. And my life, everything, since that moment, everything good and decent in my life is today is directly to the God you people gave me and introduced me to. But I left that meeting that night with no place to go. Guy was 12-stepping me. I got tired of hearing him whine. I told him, let me out. I'll walk to where I'm walking back down the Skid Row. I'm going right back to the streets. And I get almost there. And I hear God's voice. It says simply this: if you go down the Skid Row, Jerome, you're going down the Skid Row to die. And this time, you won't be coming back. And I turned around at 3 o'clock in the morning and I went and knocked on my dad's door. He don't owe me anything. No aid or comfort whatsoever by my conduct and my behavior and my action. And he came to the door. He said, what do you want? And I said, Daddy, will you please give me another chance? Will you please help me? I don't have any place to go. Please. Because I think I found a way not to drink. Will you help me? And I used to think that man loved his son that much. But my life hung by a thread, and it was nothing but unadulterated grace. He offered me God's grace. Because I didn't deserve any aid or comfort. He said, go on back there and lay down, son. But if you drank, please leave. Please. And I started making these meetings every day. I would walk, I'd catch the bus, I'd do anything to get to a meeting. People would give me rides. But I had some barriers. Oh man, that first few weeks, those first few months of sobriety, you talking about some barriers. See, I have 5 younger siblings. You say, yeah. They upstanding good citizens. They not no wino like their older brother. And they would come over there in shifts every day. Put his ass out. Talk about me bad. Oh, they bring out every dastardly deed I'd done. Oh, they talked about me bad. To the point I was going to have violence. I almost went and drank one time. I was going to have some violence. And so I told Jack about my problem. And I didn't drink because I wanted to, but I told him about it. And he said, listen to me, and he gave me an answer. I didn't like his answer, but I had said I would do whatever he said. He said, Jerome, is what what they're saying about you, is it true? I said, well, yeah, of course it's true. He says, here's what I want you to do. I want you to acknowledge it. I want you to look at them in the eye and say, yes, I act like that. Yes, I behaved like that. Yes, I did that. But I've been sober 30 days and haven't did it. And I don't intend to do it, and leave it at that. And they would laugh in my face and ridicule me. Oh, I see you over there reading the big book. How big is it? They were cruel. They were cruel. All except one. All except my baby sister, my next to baby sister, Debbie. She treated her older brother with some love and respect. Because Christmas came, right? And they got all their presents and everybody ate and they laughing and they good jobs and all this. And, you know, I hadn't worked in years and I couldn't get no job. Nobody would hire me. And I left there, I was walking out of there sad because it was Christmas and I didn't feel like I was a part. And Debbie called me. She said, Sonny, come here. You didn't open your present. She was like in middle school. And she didn't have a whole lot of money. She said, you didn't open your present. It's behind the tree. It was an old crudely wrapped red Christmas pack with a bow on it. And I opened it up. She says, Merry Christmas to my big brother. And it had 3 pair of Fruit of the Loom underwear and 3 pair of Fruit of the Loom t-shirts. And I'm good with that at Christmas. If that happens for me in Christmas, I'm good. But you know what? Oh yeah, my probation officer violated me. But it was this lady in the program, she saved me. I didn't know she was a probation officer. She offered me a job. First, I told her, no, I don't want that job. She offered to me again. I told her, no, I don't want that job. The job was mowing the lawn, watering the grass, and setting the trash out in exchange for a place to stay. It was a converted garage. And I had to get out of there. At 26 years old, I had to, but I was terrified to. But I left there and took that job. And my probation officer, Mr. Lincoln, came over there. He said, you know, I'm going to violate you. And that lady sit out in the driveway and talk to him for an hour. I said, look at her out there. She in AA telling all of my business. I didn't know he was talking to a colleague. And yeah, he violated me. And I asked Jack, when I got the letter that I had to go to court, I said, Jack, he told me I'm going to do a year and a day. What should I do? I thought Jack was going to say, run, Jerome, run like hell. Don't let them catch you. And he said, Jerome, in Alcoholics Anonymous, we don't run from our past. We face it. I want you to show up in court. Do you want me to go with you? I said, no, I want you to go with me. And I had just got a job. A guy walked into the AA clubhouse. I couldn't find no job. I didn't have no work skills. He walked into the club. This AA guy the night before had prayed for me to get a job. And the next day I'm sitting in the AA clubhouse with another bunch of drunks, bums getting ready to go get drunk. And this guy walks in there. He says, does anybody in here want a job? I said, damn, God, not so quick. I had got that job. I was working at the gas station, pumping gas. And now I had to go to court. And I showed up in court. I didn't run. And the judge read the whole probation officer's application, recommendation. He says, Mr. Scott has been sober in Alcoholics Anonymous 8 months. And he looks like he's on the road to rehabilitation. And I don't think it would be in the interest of the County of Los Angeles to violate him and send him to jail. And he said, jail, not yet. He put that yet behind it. You know what a yet means, and hey, you're eligible too. Oh yeah, and I got an opportunity to get a better job. I'm sitting in a clubhouse, right? And there's this lady, she works at the post office. She's a supervisor. And she says, Jerome, they're hiring at the post office. I said, shoot, the government ain't gonna hire me. She said, well, you ain't took the test and been called for an interview. Why don't you? And I took the test and I missed it by 1 point. I got 69. And I started taking that test wherever they were giving it. I passed that test. I took that test 69 times. And after taking it 9 times, I memorized all 9 tests, and they have 562 questions. It's a speed test. I got a perfect score on 60 tests. And so now I start getting some interviews. But on a postal application, they want to know dates, times, and places. Have you ever been arrested? I told Jack, I don't remember all that stuff. Jack said, don't worry about it, Jerome. Go down to Parker Center at the police station, give the duty officer your $17, and they'll give you your records. They're sent off to the J. Edgar Hoover building under the Freedom of Information Act, and they're sent it down to the Department of Justice. You have all the information you need. Then they wanted to know, have you ever been treated for alcohol or drug addiction? So I had some pages, some extra addendums on my application. And I went to this one interview in the same Grayville Valley, and the postmaster said, I didn't even expect you to show up. But I'm going to give you your interview. Over here is where the clerks process the mail. Over here is where the carriers case the mail. And let me show you where the mail comes in. He took me to the back door. He said, this is where the mail comes in, and this is where you go out. And if you work on my post office, be over my dead body, and slam the door in my face. I almost went postal before I worked for the post office. I was going to go back in there and do something to him, but I have a deal with Jack. I don't do nothing, write nothing, say nothing until I talk to him about it first. And I called him up. I said, Jack, I'm not coming down here no more. Be treated like this and humiliated. He said, well, Jerome, how many times have you took that test? I said, I took that test 69 times. He said, well, how many times have you been down there? I said, this is the 4th and last time. He said, Jerome, it might be an exercise in character building that you go down there 65 more times. I said, damn, Jack, how much character do you want me to have? And I went down there 5 more times and they hired me. And I worked for them for 21 years. They made me go back to school. They were going to lay me off. And my supervisor told me, you can save your job, Jerome, but you have to go back to school and get a master's degree. I said, is the post office going to pay for it? She said, no. And I told her, well, I'm not going. She said, well, clear out your desk. I said, hold it. I hadn't talked to Jack, and I called him on the phone. I said, Jack, you won't believe these crazy people. They won't give me all my severance pay at one time. They want to dole it out to me like I'm some kid. I know what to do with my money. Give it to me now. And now they're talking about if I go to school and get a master's degree, I can keep my job. I said, Jack, I'm 42. I said, by the time I get a master's degree, I'll be 50 years old. And I thought he was going to say, take the money and run. He said, well, look at it like this, Jay. It ain't no guarantee you're going to live to be 50. So why don't you go ahead and get the master's anyway? See, it's the thing about sponsors that know about you. See, he had knew about those other 8 attempts I had attempted to go to school in sobriety. And he brought up every one of them when I dropped out. Oh, the one that hurt the baddest, worse, I had dropped out of school because I didn't have a Scantron and a pencil. I showed up for the class without being prepared to take the test. So I quit. And this time he said, you're going to do it my way. So I sit and listen. He says, if your class starts at 6, I want you in your seat at 6:30. On time for you is late. I don't want you sitting in the back. I don't want you sitting in the middle. I want you to sit on the front row because only the smart people sit on the front row. I know you're not smart, but I want you to pretend. And he saw me get my master's degree. I got my master's degree at 50 years old, the year my son was born. I've been married to a beautiful woman that I met in AA on 4th of July and married on Labor Day. We'll be married 30 years this coming August. Life is really good for me. I tell you, it is awesome to me. I have no qualms with what Alcoholics Anonymous and the God I found here has done with my life. Oh yeah, there's been some difficult periods. Oh, it shows up. That's why I believe in the 6 essential rules to recovery. If you follow the 6 essential rules to recovery, you will never drink. The first rule is you have to have a sobriety date. A sobriety date is non-negotiable. Nothing is more equal or more important than that date. No amount of money, property, prestige, or relationships can come before it. The next thing you need to do is have a home group. My home group is the Bellflower Big Book group. And out of that group is the third rule. I have a sponsor in that group. A sponsor I'm current with. A sponsor that I have the ability to go tell on myself when I mess up. And if I mess up, I know what I need to do. I need to go tell somebody. I don't have no secrets. I don't try to live no double life. It is what it is. And I still take the steps. I don't work them, I take them. My sponsor is 60-something years sober. He's taking them, so I'm going to take them. And I believe in the 12th step. I believe it wholeheartedly when Bill said this is our 12th suggestion. This step will immune you from drinking when all other activities fail. That's intense work with another alcoholic. It will save the day when you stop thinking about your little pitiful life, Jerome, and go try to help somebody else. And when I do that, I get the 6th rule. That's the one I never thought possible, that you get to live this. This 6th rule to me is I get to insist on enjoying life. Facing life on life's terms, not ducking or dodging any of life's issues, avoiding the deliberate manufacture of misery, walking in my own personal brand of dignity, not making any excuse for my existence, having healthy, wholesome fun. But this thing is not through. You know how it is when you get through with that inventory and you sit back and you mull over the steps and you ask yourself, have I omitted anything? And at that time, I really believe I didn't purposely omit it. I just forgot it. And I'm 29 years sober. And I'm talking to my sponsor, Jack, one morning, and I told him the story. I told him how I had outslicked the Los Angeles DA and the Los Angeles Police Department. See, I used to like to drop those barbiturates, you know, those second-all barbiturates, those red devils. And I used to chase it with Bourbon Deluxe and fall out, OD, and sleep for 3 days in a drug-induced coma. I went and bought 100 tablets. I'm not selling them. This is for my own personal consumption. And the police caught me. I had 100 tablets, rolled 2 in a row in aluminum foil. And they was getting ready to send me to prison. They said, we gonna, since you ain't never been in any trouble, we gonna give you a deal. You can stay in the county jail for a year. And I says, I wasn't selling this stuff. That's my medication. They say, well, who prescribed it? I said, my doctor prescribed it. They say, who is your doctor? And I had to think quick on my feet. And I remembered my psychiatrist. I used to call in the middle of the night when I was suicidal. So I told him, Dr. Frank Williams prescribed this for me. I hadn't seen him in 5 years. And the next day they said, roll him up, Jerome. You free. I had the nerve to go and ask for my medication. I said and waited 5 hours for it. And Jack said, Jerome, you had never told me that story. You had never had that in your inventory. And you need to make an amends to that doctor. He got angry with me. Oh, he raised his voice. He says, you need to find that doctor. You need to place yourself at your disposal to do whatever that doctor asks you to do to correct this. He was chastising me when I was saying to myself, well, I ain't going to look for him in no hurry. It's been over 30 years, 35 years. I ain't going to look for him. That Saturday, a friend of mine who was getting his license said, I'm working for this doctor. He's paying me $35 an hour. He's signing off on my hours. I'm going to get my license as a therapist. Jerome, why don't you come and work for him? I said, man, I ain't coming up to LA. I live in Corona. That's 40 miles. He said, man, how much they paying you at the county? I said, only paying me 23. He said, man, 35? You going to give up all that money? I said, well, who's the doctor? And he said, Dr. Frank Williams. I said, damn. And I called him up. I placed myself at his disposal. And Dr. Williams said, Jerome, well, what are you doing now? I said, Dr. Williams, I've been sober 29 years in Alcoholics Anonymous. I'm a father. I'm completing my education to be a licensed therapist. And he said, you know what, Jerome, you've done enough. You're okay with me. That's what I love about Alcoholics Anonymous, is the fact that this God I found here is awesome. He not only solved my drinking problems, he solved all my problems. And I know the very day I was looking for this guy, Bonnie had left the hospital, and I went to a men's stag meeting. I heard myself say I'm an alcoholic, but I didn't think I could have a relationship with God. And I went and asked this Jesuit priest who was standing there in the garden in the mental hospital, sitting there meditating. And he just told me simply this. He's, young man, God is whatever you want him to be. And he gave me this tract. It's not in the Bible, but it's this first part. It says, oh, how constant is your precious love. I seek protection under the comforts of your wings. And it's not a day that goes by that I don't say that. For today is the first day of my life, for the rest of my life, one day at a time. And thank you, dear God, just for this day. And may you lead and may you guide me in this prosperous new life. And may I never forget, during the sunshine of my life, during the storms of my life, And after the rains of my life, there's peace with you, dear God, always and forever. And all praise to the loving, living God, to whom all praise is due. I want to thank you guys in Alcoholics Anonymous for my sobriety. You guys are awesome to me. I couldn't do it without you. But also, I want to thank you for another day of sanity. Thank you.